In 1994, on the 27th of October, 4 days before Halloween, a little girl named Sabrina was born on the outskirts of Cleveland, Ohio, fated with alcoholic and abusive parents. She became a child of the foster care system until Lisa Knoefel, a social worker specializing in sexual abuse, took her under her wing. From then on, Sabrina had it all. 2 loving parents, 2 sisters, and a bright future ahead of her. Or so she thought. Since on August 6, 2014, Sabrina was put on trial for the murder of Lisa, her own foster mother.
You recognize this knife? And you attacked her with such vigor and force that you managed to put a 20-degree bend in a stainless steel knife, correct?
2 years before this was recorded, Sabrina was arrested inside her foster parents' home with a bloody knife in her hand.
Lisa Knoefel was stabbed to death. Her 18-year-old foster daughter is in custody tonight.
I can't see the Sabrina that I know being violent towards anyone, let alone what she did.
She would never have done this by herself.
At the time, the police's only other lead was Kevin Kinzel, the victim's husband and Sabrina's foster father.
We're just trying to figure out what happened that night. You know, his wife was brutally murdered here.
And you can feel free to talk.
He's no aware, so thanks.
How about your relationship with Sabrina?
No.
Kevin?
No.
But someone else knew what really happened on the night of the murder. Megan Zanella, Sabrina's foster sister, was also present at the scene, not for one more second.
911 was an emergency.
My name is Megan Zanella, and I am the daughter of Lisa Knoefel. This is my first interview, and I have been waiting for this since my mom passed away.
After calling 911, Megan waited 6 agonizing minutes before the police arrived. She trying to fight off Sabrina, but had only 13. She was easily overwhelmed. Eventually, she heard the sirens wailing in the distance.
I rushed outside to meet them, and they point a gun at me because they thought I was Sabrina.
She's waving her hands. You need to hurry, hurry, hurry. Worst case scenario was going through my head. What am I going to see? How bad is this going to be?
After clearing up the confusion, the officers entered the residence. They called out to Sabrina and Lisa, but were met with only eerie silence. Eventually, after entering the first room past the stairs, the officers came face to face with Sabrina, covered in blood, knife in hand.
It was a very tense couple seconds. I could see blood on the blade. I can see blood on her. Immediately, we started screaming to drop the knife.
Sabrina looked straight at the officer for a couple of seconds, as if she was in a trance, before throwing away the knife and putting her hands up while his partner cuffed her. Randy Mullinax approached Lisa's bed.
I could barely even see. It looked like she literally showered in blood. I knew there was nothing I can do.
After his partner dragged Sabrina outside, the officer began clearing the room, when he suddenly heard something unusual.
I could hear a child crying from my left. We opened up the door to clear the closet, and that's when I found a very, very small child screaming.
This was Haley Carnival, Megan's little sister, who crawled into the closet in fear once the attack began. Later at the station, Sabrina tried to act as if she didn't remember anything, but couldn't hold it in when the detectives brought on Haley and Megan.
You're telling me Haley and Megan saw me or her mother?
Correct. Unless you had a knife and you stabbed Lisa.
I don't believe this.
Megan's mother, Lisa Knoefel, first met Sabrina through her job as a social worker. During their conversation, Lisa felt a deep sense of empathy for the teenager. At 16 years old, Sabrina never had a stable home or foster parents and longed for some sense of normalcy. Believing she and her husband Kevin could provide Sabrina with the support she needed, Lisa made a major decision.
This wasn't her first time taking in a foster kid, so I do remember when we actually went to go pick up Sabrina. She was really nice, and I thought she could be a big sister figure for me.
She worked a lot in counseling, how to cope and how to manage with everything she was going through. She was going to class, getting good grades. I think Sabrina really was thriving in their home.
For over a year, Sabrina mingled well with the Consols, especially with her sisters, Meg and Haley. even with Kevin, Megan's stepfather, and Lisa's husband. But eventually, Kevin began spending more and more time alone with Sabrina, neglecting the rest of his family. Lisa tried to address this through text messages, but Kevin dismissed her concerns, insisting she was overreacting.
I started to notice that something wasn't right between Sabrina and Kevin.
Lisa being in the field of, working for the Job and Family Services in the sex division, I think she had a pretty good inkling on what was going on.
Sabrina had never experienced a stable family, a loving household, the sense of security, the sense of belonging. Kevin seemed to know how to prey on Sabrina's vulnerabilities.
Kevin Knoefel is a sexual predator. He was no better than the people that sexually abused the kids that Lisa was trying to help.
With no way to prove her suspicions, Lisa began talking about divorcing Kevin and putting Sabrina back into foster care. But her husband insisted they wait for Sabrina to finish high school before letting her go. In the meantime, Lisa became more strict towards her foster daughter, ensuring she stayed home to prevent Kevin from approaching her. But her safeguarding quickly escalated for unknown reasons. Lisa isolated Sabrina from her sisters to creating a very tense environment inside the house.
Tensions between Lisa and Sabrina, and then Sabrina and the minor child too, Megan.
It was all downhill from there. And I never knew that it could lead to this. As he was leaving for work, she gave him a hug and she whispered something to him. And I just didn't think that was right.
From the corner of her eye, Megan noticed that Sabrina received an unusually high number of text messages over dinner and the rest of the evening, even past bedtime. She could still hear her foster sister's phone buzzing from the next room. Suddenly, at 1 a.m., the sound stopped before a high-pitched shout pierced the silence.
I was hearing screaming, and I was like, what the hell is going on downstairs? So I walked down there, and Bree's stabbing my mother to death. I say, get off of her. I was actually on her at one point, and she shoved me. So I immediately go into the office area and call 911.
But only 13, she was trying to explain the situation to the operator while fighting off Sabrina in an attempt to defend her mother.
911 was an emergency. What's going on? Who had the knife? My sister. Okay, does she still have it? You okay? What happened?
Milk. And this keeps going on for over 6 minutes. Megan's worst nightmare coming true.
I have trouble sleeping every night. I have flashbacks all the time, and that will never stop.
Following Sabrina's arrest, she had to be taken to a hospital to treat the numerous stab wounds Lisa and Megan caused to her hands during the attack. After she was stabilized, police took her back to the station and immediately began her interview.
Our main goal when we first interviewed Sabrina was to get Sabrina to tell us exactly what happened. We caught her coming out of the room, so we knew she did it. We wanted to know why.
So what do you recall?
Yesterday? I don't know.
For over an hour, Sabrina claimed she had no recollection of the events and was unaware of Lisa's passing. Her story was that she took too many ibuprofen, blacked out, and woke up in the hospital. But Parmenter, a veteran detective, knew the teenager was hiding something.
First thing she does is she has an itch on her forehead for no apparent reason. When people touch their face or, start scratching or start tapping their toes, it's a good indication to us that the person's probably lying. They're nervous.
The detectives couldn't gather anything from her except that she was deceptive. Several people at the station proclaimed, "You shouldn't open an investigation since they can't Sabrina red-handed." But Parmenter couldn't shake off the fact that it was unusual for a suspect to deny everything was being caught in the act. So we asked Kevin to come to the station for an interview. To his surprise, Kevin requested that his attorney be present, and Michael Koenig said attorney refused on his behalf to convince them to show up. Parmenter gave them a false pretense. They would only talk about Lisa's work.
How you doing? Ron Parmenter. Ron, my colleague. Nice to meet you. You doing, Kevin?
You told me you wanted to talk about his wife's work.
Correct.
That's the subject matter?
Yes.
So,
Kevin, do you know anything that was happening at the house the night before you left for work that night?
well, hang on a second. We just talking about his wife's work. What's going on at the house the night before is not his wife's work.
We're just trying to figure out what happened that night. You know, his wife was brutally murdered here. Were you and Lisa in the process of going through a divorce?
Okay, now we're getting outside the scope. We're not going to get into, the relationship between Kevin and Lisa.
The police couldn't help but find this strange. Why wouldn't Kevin help them? Why was Michael so defensive with his client? What really kind of perimeter off guard was Kevin and Michael's reaction when he brought Sabrina into the conversation? Before then, the detective knew nothing of Kevin and Sabrina's strange relationship.
So you can feel free to talk. He's still weird. Next stand, or he can still say what he wants to say. I mean, how about your relationship with Sabrina?
No.
Kevin?
No.
In the aftermath, Kevin kept looking over Megan for a few days before her own father could move her out of the house. During that short period of time, the 13-year-old witnessed many things that forced her to reconsider her stepfather's involvement in the events of November 16th.
All I know is that murdered.
On that very same day. Mere hours after his wife's murder, Kevin was on the phone with his insurance company. Turns out he previously had terminated his own coverage, along with those of his 2 children, and transferred them to Lisa, giving her quadruple protection. 6 months before her death, when he hung up, he had cashed in over $785,000. After 6 months, the case went cold. Both Megan and Parmenter knew Sabrina did it, but didn't know why and couldn't shake off how odd Kevin had been acting since the murder of his wife. That was until Sabrina, still in custody, agreed to talk to Kieran Kowal, her case prosecutor, through a process called a proffer.
So a proffer is a good faith first step when the defense attorney, the prosecution meet with the suspect. It's an opportunity for them to be 100% complete honest and tell exactly what happened.
As Parmenter and Kowal investigated, it became clear that Sabrina was probably trying to protect somebody when she claimed to have blacked out during the attack, even from inside cell. Sabrina appeared to be overwhelmed with regret for what she did, and her concern for the rest of her foster family never lessened for these reasons. Cole went straight to the point during the proffer interview.
What we believe from conversations is that what led up to this homicide, to this murder, is that there was another party involved in planning that.
Yes. It was Kevin Knoefel, my foster father.
From what they've gathered, Kevin appeared to be a groomer, a sexual predator who builds a relationship with an underage person to gain their trust and prepare them for sexual abuse. Kevin often used detention gifts and secrets to make the 17-year-old feel special and dependent on him. He promised her that he would help her get into a massage therapy school and that she should train on him from there. It didn't take long for him to get what he really wanted from the teenager, and he would continue to exploit her every time they were alone together.
Sabrina had an appendix surgery, her appendix burst, and I visited her in the hospital. That day, while I was there shortly after, Kevin had sexual relations with her in a hospital bed after she just had appendix surgery. That makes me sick to my stomach.
Does he ever tell you, hey, you can't tell anybody about this?
All the time.
Did he say what would happen if you told
Then you'd be taken out of my care and I could lose my foster parent license.
Kevin extended his control over Sabrina during the following year. After every sexual encounter the two would have, he would talk about Lisa twisting the narrative to make Sabrina believe, and the only way for them to be together was to get rid of his wife permanently. Slowly but surely, he manipulated Sabrina into believing that killing Lisa was her only option.
He wanted to get a divorce, but Haley, which is a 3-year-old daughter of his and her, was in the picture and she would get custody, and he didn't want that happening. He said, well, look, I'm gonna kill myself because I can't deal with this anymore. And so when he said that, it kind of triggered me. I was like, no, I don't want that to happen. That's what he manipulated me with. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it.
Why doesn't he kill her?
Because then Haley wouldn't have a father. He'd be out in prison, and basically he convinced me that I wouldn't get caught.
I was supposed to take her ring, her necklace, all of that, as if somebody came in and burglarized her.
But things didn't go as planned. Lisa woke up while Sabrina stood frozen in front of her bed, realizing she'd reached a point of no return. The teenager attacked her foster mother and fell into a blind rage when Lisa and Megan tried to fight back.
You realized, this isn't going the way I thought it would.
Because I said, well, it's too late now. I'm going to go to jail anyway. Matter, just get it done.
And then during the time when you would see Lisa, I mean, would you think like, oh, I can't do this?
My heart would beat out of my chest when just thinking about it. I still sit here in disbelief that I did it.
Cole and Parmenter were hesitant at first, since Sabrina could have easily invented everything. Yet, instead of demonstrating the usual behaviors associated with lying, Sabrina was now much more confident, assertive, and consistent in her account of the events to back her claims. She even mentioned that someone else knew about the plot, her high school friend Autumn Pavlik.
Myself and Chief Assistant Prosecutor knocked on her door. We introduced ourselves, and she says, I've been expecting you guys.
Are you surprised that he was also talking to you about that?
When he got on the phone, it became a reality. I'm like, okay, well, if I can talk her out of it, and if I can make it so where him manipulating her is no longer there, then maybe it won't happen.
Since Kevin had already talked to Autumn about his plan, the police thought he might do so again if she confronted him. So they wired up the 17-year-old and sent her to meet Kevin when she accused him of killing his wife and of having conspired with his foster daughter to do so. Kevin didn't deny her claims, he didn't even react at all.
If somebody's accusing you of being involved in something you know you're not involved, you would say something like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Armed with Sabrina and Adam's testimony, Parmenter didn't waste any more time.
I got an arrest warrant. We went to Kevin Knoeffel's house and we arrested him. I don't think he was surprised. It was kind of weird because he was sleeping up in Sabrina's room.
After his arrest, the police finally had Kevin to themselves, but it wouldn't last long.
We have a lot of facts as to your involvement in this case. We would like to know your side of the story on us and what happened.
What was the relationship now with Sabrina and Lisa and you?
It got to the point to where Lisa got really frustrated and I dealt with Sabrina.
Elaborate more on how your relationship with Sabrina developed.
If we're getting into all this stuff, I'm supposed to have my lawyer.
You know we have the evidence. I have an 11-count indictment here.
Lake County grand jury indicted the man for plotting to kill Lisa with help from his foster child. But that's not all. He's also accused of sexual battery for having a relationship with that child.
I was out to eat, and I remember just seeing my mom's face on the news. And my dad looked at me and said, "Kevin got arrested today." And I was like, "Really?" And I had no emotion. I had no emotion because I didn't know what to say.
At the trial, and witnesses took the stand from Sabrina's teachers and social workers to family and friends of the Kinzel. Each of them corroborated that he acted suspiciously after the murder, and too many either knew or witnessed him acting suggestively with Sabrina. Even Kevin's best friend David Strunk testified against him in a report he filmed in the weeks after the murder. He explained that Kevin insisted on showing him some of Sabrina's suggestive modeling pictures and that he kept talking about visiting her in jail, just like Megan noticed.
He told me that he just wanted to let her know that he was still there for her. This was the person that had just killed his wife, and I was shocked that he would want to have any sort of contact with her.
After 9 hours of consideration, the jury came back with the verdict.
Guilty of sexual battery is charged in the indictment. Guilty of conspiracy to commit aggravated murder. Guilty of complicity in aggravated murder is charged in the indictment.
In an interview with Karen Cowan, the case prosecutor, journalist Josh Mankiewicz remarked that even though they had won their case, a judgment like this for little satisfaction.
This is really just betrayal on top of betrayal on top of betrayal, isn't it? I mean, you got Kevin betraying Lisa, Sabrina betraying Lisa. Then you have Kevin betraying Sabrina, and ultimately Sabrina betraying Kevin.
Yeah, it's a perfect circle.
But the journalist is forgetting someone in this allegory, because no one has been betrayed more than Megan, forced not only to witness the attack. Megan tried to save her mom to no avail. And now she has to carry that trauma with her for the rest of her life.
If I had to pick one emotion, I would say angry. I am very angry. To take away someone who was helping a lot of people in their life and doing what they could for their family is awful.
I believe that I should do time because I know they deserve justice. And the only justice they can get is to be behind bars.
Sabrina pled guilty to all charges and, like Kevin, was condemned to life behind bars without parole until 2042. In 2017, Haley and Megan filed civil suits against them and were awarded over $6 million in damages from her jail cell at Dayton Correctional. Sabrina was interviewed twice since her incarceration, once by Dateline in 2015 and again by HLN in 2020. In both cases, she pleaded for forgiveness from her former foster sisters.
I realized that there's more than one victim in this story. If I had a chance, I would tell them that I was selfish and that I'm sorry and that I never meant to hurt them. And I know, how can I say that when I killed their mother? I was in a place that I wasn't thinking about anybody but myself, and that was wrong, and it doesn't make it right. I know no matter what I say, I can't bring her back, and I can't undo what's already been done and what they've sown. If it means anything, I truly do apologize.
Sorry will never be enough for the act that you did. The pain I go through every day, knowing that my mom is not there, to see me get married and have kids. You took that away from me.
Since Sabrina and Kevin's condemnation, Megan has grown up to become a strong and independent woman. She may never forgive her former sister, but instead she turned her adversity into purpose by studying criminal law in college, hoping to someday bring justice and reparation to other survivors of violent crimes. Today, Megan continues to show a desire to help others, a trait she will forever share with her mother.
She just wanted to help people, make a difference.
Thank you for watching to the end. Kindly like this video and subscribe to the channel for more. See you in our next video. Bye.